One.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is All Washed Up with your hosts, CK, Big Al, and Billy. Brought to you by the only voice that matters.
Hey everybody, how we doing today on this beautiful, rainy, everywhere, hot, miserable, whatever you want to call it day? Today's June 29th. We are going to be going over the top 10 fantasy football PPR wide receivers. We are joined by Big Al today. No Billy. Billy's got some technical difficulties, but yeah. Alan, what you got today for us, man?
I don't have any rain. I don't know about you. I've got plenty of heat, though. We are at a minimum of like 105 degrees out here in Idaho. So, yeah, it's rough, man. It's way too hot to be doing anything. So,
we've been between this heat and rain. So, yeah. All right.
That's ridiculous.
So, I think Alan already alluded to it before when we were talking offline, but
news with Big Al.
There you go.
Yeah, man. So news this week, not a whole lot. Training camps, the OTAs haven't really gotten kicked off yet. I know a lot of teams are starting up, I think, within the next 2 weeks or so.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on.
Okay.
Sorry for the technical difficulties. I have no idea what's going on here. All right. Anyways, yeah, I think it's just got to get rid of that stupid thing there. All right. There you go. Keep going.
Yeah. So OTs we starting up here soon. So we'll start getting some more news with everything that's going on around training camps and everything. But news from the past 2 weeks. Some big news that came out about Carl Nassib. Carl Nassib coming out. Big thing that he did. Huge support around around all of NFL sports in general. So it was really cool. Other news, Nagy came out and said that there's no possible scenario where Andy Dalton isn't the starter for week 1. I don't understand that.
Didn't hear that.
I'm a little confused about that. I know that they have the plan in place. They want to basically do when Nagy was in Kansas City with Patrick Mahomes. They want to keep Mahomes behind. They wanted to keep Mahomes behind Alex Smith. So maybe they're trying to do that. I don't understand it. I think that if they don't play Justin Fields, that Nagy and Ryan Pace are both gone. So I think the only option for them to do is play him. And another rookie quarterback news, Urban Meyer said that Trevor Lawrence is not ready yet. So we could be seeing Gardner Minshew to start the year for the Jaguars. I highly doubt that. Yeah, I highly doubt that. I think it's just, just him talking about that he's not ready yet. I mean, they haven't even done OTAs yet, so, who knows. And then along with that, he alluded to the fact of how hard it is to make the 53-man roster when when questions were brought up about Tim Tebow. So I've said from the get-go that I don't think Tim Tebow makes a 53-man roster, and that kind of solidifies that a little bit for me. We'll still see how it goes, but who knows. Other Jaguars news, they signed Laquan Treadwell. Kid used to be a beast out of, I think, Louisville. He was with the Vikings for a little while, bounced around some other teams. But they're loaded, so I don't think that's really anything. Could just probably be a practice squad. And then in a big shocker that I saw, some news for your Kansas City Chiefs, your second team, Kansas City Chiefs there, Scott. Defensive end Frank Clark was arrested, I believe, in California with a submachine gun in his car. So yeah, we'll see how that goes. That could be a big hit to the Chiefs' defense.
Yeah, I mean
I,
the guy had problems when he was at Michigan too. I believe that was actually why he was dismissed from the team. So,
yeah,
surprise, not really, but
right.
hey, if
Dude,
it helps my Browns in the AFC, I'm all right for it. So,
That's true. That's true, man. So, and then the other thing that I heard this past couple weeks was Aaron Rodgers' membership to the country club was renewed. People took that as speculation that he renewed it. I think what came out about it was his annual membership. It's just when the card renewed for it.
right.
Man, it was just one of those things that just auto renewed, and people are taking it as, oh, he's coming back. Still don't think so. So,
I don't
anyways,
think
that's
so
it.
either. In fact, yeah, I don't think he'll be coming back either, which is why my top 10 wide receivers are, and I'm sure we all kind of looked at it too because it's kind of tough, but where
Yeah,
Devontae Adams is going to fall. But
and yeah,
yeah,
this is
so
this
oh,
is
good.
for everyone listening in though too. Like this, our rankings that we're going to talk about here soon are based off of I mean we've been doing this whole season as Aaron Rodgers isn't coming back. I think
Right.
we're all on the basis of that. If he does, I mean it changes up everything. So, but we'll address that when that news comes out.
Yep. So, like I said, today we're doing the top 10 wide receivers in basically a standard PPR league. This is a very tough one when you're only doing 10, I think. I know that was very hard for me because the last
Yeah.
probably really the last two or three that anybody could fall there. And I think it'll be interesting to see where things end up at the end of the season. But hey, we'll get right into it. Let's see. We got Big Al's top 10 here.
Yeah.
Alan, you ready? Can you go?
Let's do it, man.
All right.
Are we? Yeah, we'll start at number 10. So
We'll
number
count down,
10.
so.
Number 10, I got my boy, my dude, my name, Mr. Allen Robinson. And I love this guy. I mean, he played at Penn State, huge Penn State fan. I've been watching Allen Robinson play for a long time now. Loved when the Bears brought him in. I'm really hoping that the team takes care of him and actually sends him to a deal now that we got Justin Fields. I think he'll want to be with like a top tier talent playing. The guy's been putting up over 1,000 yards every season, playing with I believe it was like Mike Glennon, Blake Bortles in Jacksonville, and then he has to come to Chicago. He comes to Chicago and still has to deal with Mike Glennon, Mitch Trubisky, Nick Foles last year, and all these crap quarterbacks. And they're quarterbacks that they're in the NFL. They're crap compared to other quarterbacks. And the guy's still putting up over 1,000-yard seasons. Like, he's one of the best contested catch wide receivers in the NFL. I mean, if he's doing this with those type of talents, Andy Dalton supported A.J. Green, Tyler Boyd, all those guys when he was back in Cincinnati. What's to say if Andy Dalton plays like he's not going to do the same for Allen Robinson? So, love the guy. I nothing more to say about him than I love these on the Bears. So
Moving on.
And like we were talking about though too, like I think when you're looking at this, your top 8, 9, and 10, there's so much room that can be moved around with them. I think we all have a few different players that are in there and mixed around. I mean it's hit or miss on who's going to finish where. So
Right.
Number 9, I've got a guy who I think if the quarterback situation plays out, he could end up sliding up and being like a top 3 talent again, like he has been, or like he had been, a few years back.
Right.
Michael Thomas. I mean, it was a down year for him. He was dealing with a high ankle injury. Drew Brees wasn't Drew Brees anymore, not being able to push the ball down the field. Drew Brees dealing with injuries, having Taysom Hill in there. I mean, Taysom Hill, like if Taysom Hill wins that starting job, then Michael Thomas for me is out of that. This is me projecting that Jameis Winston, learning from a year under Drew Brees, can take that role over. I mean, look what he did when he was.
Yeah, I mean, I was gonna say I was looking it up today when I was researching him a little bit, and actually his numbers, even with Taysom Hill in there, weren't all that bad.
Okay.
So it's really gonna I think what type of offense more than what they're gonna run than anything else.
Yeah.
But yeah, continue on. Sorry.
No, you're good. I mean, but so look at what Jameis did when he was with Tampa Bay, and he was able to sustain Chris Godwin and Mike Evans during that time, and the tight ends that he had too. I mean, so there's no other talent. They got rid of Emmanuel Sanders. So you've got Traquan Smith, who needs to take a huge step up coming up this year. But other than that, I mean, you got Michael Thomas. If Michael Thomas comes back and he's healthy and he's able to get back to the form he has been, the dude's unstoppable. Like he's one of the most uncoverable receivers in the game. So,
I agree.
So that's what I got to say for him. Moving down, this is a guy who I had a hard time having him where I had him, and that's A.J. Brown. You could make the case to move A.J. Brown up. You can move the case now with the Julio Jones news to move A.J. Brown back down. And I see a lot of people that have, and they've moved him back down for the simple fact of like Julio's going to take those targets away. My biggest thing with this is I think that the offense is going to move towards more air yards with the load that they put on Derrick Henry the past 2 years. The dude can't, I mean, Derrick Henry is one of those guys that you have to go back to like the Jim Brown times to find like that running back who's been able to take that load and been able to keep up with the wear and tear on his body. So I think with the change in offensive coordinator leaving, going to the head coach for the Atlanta Falcons now, I think they get away from running the ball as much and let Ryan Tannehill air it out with Julio Jones and A.J. Brown here. And A.J. Brown, I mean, the dude I think is the best wide receiver with the ball in his hands. Like the size, the speed, and the talent that he has. Like, I mean, you have to make that's the biggest thing with the Tennessee Titans is you, as a defender, you have to make a business decision on whether you are going to get in front of A.J. Brown or Derrick Henry or even Julio Jones. It's like, do you want to take that hit and risk the rest of your career? Or what are you going to do? And I think that's one thing that plays into A.J. Brown. I mean, it's ridiculous. So, yeah. But
I agree, man.
So, moving on. Number 7, guy who I'm a huge fan of. I think he hit the lottery staying in
don't mind the
Florida.
Yeah, it's a little mistake.
That's all good. So staying, getting Justin Herbert there with the Chargers after Phillip Rivers left. The guy's just a PPR monster. Like, I mean, 2020, 100 receptions. It's crazy on how much the offense leans on Keenan Allen and the routes that he's able to run and the accuracy of Herbert. It's crazy. So I've got him up there. I think he takes a big step. I think that offense loads up with Hunter Henry being gone. I think they'll be able to lean on Keenan Allen a lot more if he can stay healthy throughout the season. So.
Yeah, I mean, to me, Keenan Allen, I think, is a tough one, only because I kept him out of my – I know I kept him out of mine. We'll go over mine a little bit. Mainly just because I really – he's just a borderline one. Like, he catches a lot of balls, but then you look at, like, the yardage. Like, yeah, I mean, he's averaging what? It looks at, like, 9.9 a carry, but I'm sorry, 9.9 yards catch, which isn't bad, but I don't know. I talk about volume, and I'm going to go through mine, and I'm going to talk about volume too. And yeah, he catches a lot. And in a PPR, if you're looking, those are great numbers. I think that there's more there. I think somebody else, a couple other guys can actually surpass it. But moving on. I'll get you your number 6.
No, and I 100% agree with that, dude. Like, I mean, that's for me where the reason why I have him ranked so high. And to me, honestly, you can make the case to rank him even higher because he didn't have Justin Herbert for the entire season last year. And if he's got 100 receptions with Tyrod and playing with Tyrod, who normally wasn't throwing the ball that much, and then going to Keenan Allen, honestly, like, to me, you can make the case. And he only played 14 games last year. So
That was it. That was why I went back for. I figured I'd look at you only had 14 games
14
last year,
games,
so.
and though a few of those with Tyrod Taylor, and then jumping over with Justin Herbert. I mean, to me,
Yeah.
I mean the volume is there. So, but yeah.
Yeah.
So moving on to my number 6 wide receiver, and that is Justin Jefferson. I have Justin Jefferson here. Love the kid. Absolutely love the talent. I think the Vikings hit a home run after they got rid of Diggs, and they had to go make a move for another wide receiver. Thielen is getting up there. I believe he's over 30 now. That's usually when wide receivers start to take that dive. He dealt with a lot of Thielen dealt with a lot of injuries last year, and you saw Justin Jefferson had a very slow start to the season, and he wasn't even in a lot of the starting sets that they had. And then finally, once he got in there and got that connection with Kirk Cousins, and mind you, these rookie wide receivers who we've gotten here, like Jefferson, and I know you're going to talk about one coming up, especially Jefferson, though. He had a COVID season last year, so he couldn't have all that offseason time to get that connection with Kirk Cousins.
Right.
Now that he's got an entire season and offseason to develop with Kirk Cousins, sky's the limit for Justin Jefferson. He is a true wide receiver one who is going to be here. I think as long as he stays healthy and keeps his nose clean, he's going to be here for a long time in our top 5 going on. So,
yeah, I totally agree, man. And I'll go through mine a little bit. I say Jefferson he's the dude's a stud. He just, we'll see it again this year, and I agree. I mean, the only thing that you can say, maybe take a little bit away from maybe Adam Thielen there, but he was 100% the replacement for Stephon Diggs, and the kid's just going to get better.
100%. So, all right, moving on to one of my favorite wide receivers in the NFL, and that is Calvin Ridley. Partial to Calvin Ridley. I've got him in my keeper league that we play in, Scott. And I absolutely love him. And the fact that, so a lot of people, here's the thing with Calvin Ridley. A lot of people are going to knock on Calvin Ridley and be like, all right, Julio Jones gone. Calvin Ridley's going to play against all the number 1 cornerbacks. Calvin Ridley was already doing that. He was doing that with Julio Jones on the field and with Julio Jones off the field with all the injuries that Julio had last year. So the guy's already putting up these stats with going up against these number 1 cornerbacks that he's facing. So I don't think that there's any issue that he's going to have. The only thing he's going to have is dealing with Kyle Pitts coming out now, which I don't think that he's going to blow up as much as a lot of people are saying, though, too. But we'll see how that goes. But I think you have to take all the targets that he had last year, and let's see. So Julio had sorry, I'm trying to pull up the stats real quick.
Julio, you talking about targets? No, I don't have his up. Yeah, I don't have his.
Okay, so Julio Jones had 68 targets last year, and that was with Julio being off the field for as much time that he was off the field. So you're looking at 68 targets in I think Julio played, I don't have this up in front of me, but I think it was like 10 games that Julio played. So you're looking at 68 targets in that offense, plus being spread out throughout the rest of the offense. Like Russell Gage is going to take a big jump in targets, but the big targets are going to start going to Calvin Ridley. So to me, I think your ceiling, your floor with Calvin Ridley is number 5. Like you could arguably make the case with the volume he's going to get that he could be the wide receiver 1 in PPR this year. So, but
yeah, I mean, we'll see.
So
I have him. I don't remember where I have him. I think I have him up a little bit higher for that same reason, and I'll get into that when we get to.
Number 4 I have Devontae Adams. The talent alone, I think, with Devontae Adams will keep him here in your top 5. I think even if Jordan Love plays, and Jordan Love is Jordan Love. Devontae Adams alone and what he can do is going to help vault Jordan Love into like keeping those stats high.
Right.
I definitely think he's going to take a hit on targets, receptions. Jordan Love obviously doesn't have that connection with Devontae Adams, but Devontae Adams has already come out and said that it doesn't matter what the contract situation is. He is going to show up. He's going to show up. He's going to get paid, and he wants to play. Like, he fully supports Aaron Rodgers and everything he's doing, but dude's going to play. I think touchdowns will regress for sure. Receptions and yards are going to regress a little bit. But here, though, too, he only played 14 games. So if he gets in a full – and this is the thing we have to look at, though, too, is all these wide receivers, if they play a full set of games, we're looking at 17 games now. So we're going to see reception, touchdown, and yard records probably being broke this year, possibly from some of these guys with that extra game if they can maintain their bodies and stay in. So, but yeah. So, I mean, I don't really have Devontae Adams falling that far. If Aaron Rodgers plays, Adams automatically goes up to be my number one wide receiver, no question. So.
Yeah. I think it, either way that you look at it, though, even if it's Jordan Love or, whoever else it might be, like, it's not like Devontae Adams is a bad receiver and that, only Aaron Rodgers makes him great. Like, it's very possible you could see the very opposite happen is that, he gets fed even more.
That's true.
Just because he ends up being like that cuddly blanket that Jordan Love needs.
100%.
So, I agree. Like I said, I still have him up in my top 10, but I'm kind of leaning the other way. But just making a point.
Number 3, I got the dude himself, Mr. Nuck, DeAndre Hopkins. I mean, I think the addition of AJ Green is just going to help out DeAndre even more. There wasn't really a number 2 on that team that was taking coverage away from DeAndre Hopkins. If AJ Green comes back to a good health, I believe as of right now they still haven't re-signed Larry Fitzgerald. So we'll see how that goes. But they did sign or they drafted a wide receiver in the draft, and then they still have Christian Kirk, who's out there too. Christian Kirk got 79 targets last year. So the ball is going to need to be spread out more. Kyler Murray's already come out and said that he doesn't want to run as much as he has in the past, and he wants to develop as a pocket passer. So I don't think that's really going to take hold, especially in the division that he plays in. He's going to need to scramble quite a bit. But if he's really truly working on being a pocket passer, I mean, Hopkins is going to be the receiver of all those extra targets. They're not going to be able to run the ball very well, I don't think, with Chase Edmonds and I just had his name from the Steelers, the running back, played in Pittsburgh. Yes, James Conner.
James Conner.
I don't think they're going to be able to run the ball very well with those guys. And to keep up with the high-scoring offenses out there at the NFC West, they're going to have to throw the ball. And most of those targets are going to go to DeAndre Hopkins. So,
Yeah.
So, moving on.
I got D-Hop up there too. I'd actually argued at one point with somebody that I thought about putting D-Hop as 1, but after I started really kind of looking at it and what else they have and everything, it's like, he's always been, and I'll get more into it when I get to him in my spot, but he's a guy that catches a lot of passes, but he's not really that much of a touchdown guy.
Yeah,
that's where I think, even though in a PPR league, but like he doesn't score a ton, so that's where he moves.
Yeah, and I think that could change too. I mean, we saw Kyler was hurt a lot last year, so I think we could see that change, especially if Kyler takes that next step as a quarterback. He could. I mean, there's sky's the limit for DeAndre Hopkins. I mean, that could be insane. So, number 2, we got our 2020 wide receiver yards and reception leader from last year, and that is the dude himself, Stephon Diggs. I love this kid. He is just an absolute beast, and I love to see him go to Buffalo and be able to develop with Josh Allen and the things that he's doing. They lost John Brown. John Brown's now with the Raiders, which I think is great for John Brown. But they did pick up Emmanuel Sanders. I think Emmanuel Sanders is just a guy, though. I don't think he was the guy that he was back in Denver. News, speaking of Denver, I don't know if you heard. I didn't realize he hadn't announced it already. Demaryius Thomas actually re-signed with the Broncos to retire there. So,
wait. Oh, I was going to say, I saw that he retired. You said re-sign, and I'm like, wait.
Re-signed, just to retire as a Bronco. So I think that's really cool for him. Demaryius Thomas led me to a few fantasy football championships a long time ago back in Turkey. So I like that guy.
Yeah, same here.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. Hey. Yeah. I had him and at one point him, Peyton, and
was it Julius Thomas, the tight end?
I don't remember who the other dude was there, but I had yeah, it was. I had Demaryius, Julius, and it must have either been been the year before you got there, but yeah, Julius, Demaryius, and Peyton. So then he did the same thing for me. He won me, or he got me at 1 seed. I lost in the first round, but he at least got me.
So they got Emmanuel Sanders there. I think Stephon Diggs is just going to continue to progress. If he can stay healthy, play with Josh Allen, there's no reason that he also couldn't be in contention for being the wide receiver 1 again this year. So, not again. He wasn't. He wasn't the wide receiver 1 in PPR. He was number 3 last year. So, and then to my number 1. As long as Aaron Rodgers isn't playing, I think this dude is absolutely unstoppable. You have to tie your wide receivers. All these wide receivers you look at, they're in offenses that are high-scoring offenses or offenses that are air, like the offenses that throw the ball quite a bit. And there's no team that throws the ball more than the Kansas City Chiefs. And when you have the speed of Tyreek Hill and what he can do, and Patrick Mahomes, like he's going to be the guy. The receptions aren't always there. He's going to have the games where it's like, all right, man, we get like 2 receptions or something like that out of him. And he'll have the 1 reception for a bomb that's 80 yards and a touchdown. And that may be all you get out of him for that game because that's what he does. It's not really a possession wide receiver. So you're going to have those ups and downs with Tyreek Hill, but at the end of the day, he's going to get you the points. And with Sammy Watkins leaving, we'll see if Mecole Hardman or Pringle step up in that offense. But other than that, it's going to be Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce that are going to be hooking up with Patrick Mahomes. So, but yeah, so that's my top 10.
Yep. Solid, man. I like it. You and I, we were kind of, we've got a lot of the same guys, maybe not necessarily the same order. I've got a couple of things. I think that you're in there. I think that you're going to be really close to what ends up happening. And a lot of that, it's always based on, COVID protocols and injuries and everything else. But we're talking like straight up, nobody gets injured, has a good year type deal. I agree with you. I think that Tyreek's hard to beat number 1 unless, like you said, unless Aaron Rodgers comes back with Green Bay and he's able to work with Devontae Adams. So getting into my top 10 a little bit here. Number 10. So I actually forgot about legitimately only because of last year. I forgot about Michael Thomas. So when I was actually doing the slideshows and everything, and I'd seen you and Billy both had him, I went, crap. So how do I forget about Michael Thomas? But last year it was easy to forget about him last year just because of the injuries and everything else that was going on. And even when Drew Brees came back in the games that they did actually get to play together, he just wasn't in form at all. And I started thinking about, I was like, well, maybe I can just leave him out. He was injured, blah, 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 blah. And I was like, the dude literally up until last year had played, what was it like? I think I looked, it was like 52 games in a row or something like that. Like he hadn't missed a game since his rookie season in 2016. So not only is Michael Thomas like a solid, receiver anyways, but he's usually pretty darn healthy. Now he did deal with a few injuries, and I think that he had a couple of surgeries even to figure everything out. But if he comes back healthy, that's why I actually threw him up in my top 10. And unfortunately for Terry McLaurin, Scary Terry, he dropped out of my top 10. So I do want to throw that out there. Originally, Terry McLaurin was my number 10, but I threw Michael Thomas in there and dropped Terry McLaurin out. So, but going to my number 10, I already have the old Rook. And, even though he didn't have a year last year because of, I believe he sat out because of COVID and all that. We go back to 2019, and this is in 14 games, 84 receptions, right on par. But look at those yards, man. 1,700 yards, 20 touchdowns. Like, even if and he's back with the quarterback that did all that for him. So, like, even if he just does, like, a fraction of this, like, I think I've talked about mostly the last 2 episodes. It's all about volume. And one thing I looked at when I was putting my list together was targets. Not necessarily receptions, but targets. And you can't tell me in a Joe Burrow-led offense with, a team that, has struggled with the offensive line, but if they even play half as good as they did last year, or I should say half as better, just play better than they did last year, their offensive line, then give Joe Burrow some time, keep Joe Burrow healthy. Like, I think Jamar Chase has a year, arguably maybe even a top 5 type year, but I'm not going to go, I'm going to keep my hot take to just a top 10 at this point. But mainly because Joe Burrow throws the ball like, 50 times a friggin' game, and especially playing in the division alone, let alone the conference that he does, like the division alone, like he's going to be playing against 3 teams that have good offenses and decent defenses. So they're going to be playing from behind, in my opinion, a lot of games. Now, I did pick Cincinnati to finish better than Pittsburgh. That's my super hot take. But I just think that in that division where they're more than likely going to be playing from behind, Burrow's going to have to throw the ball, and he already has that comfortability factor with Jamar Chase. So I think that he gets yards. I think that he finishes probably, obviously not 1,700 yards, but I think that he breaks the 1,000-yard mark. I think probably right around maybe 1,100 yards. And I wouldn't be surprised to see him with, double-digit touchdowns as well, as long as he and Burrow both stay healthy.
I'll throw in there real quick about Jamar Chase.
Number 9.
I agree with you
go ahead.
On the fact that I think Jamar Chase, we're looking at LSU being wide receiver U now with these guys that are coming out. Jarvis Landry, OBJ, Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase coming out. The rest of the guys that have played there. My biggest thing is I agree with you about volume coming out of Cincinnati and Joe Burrow needing to throw the ball more. I just think that the relationship that he developed with T. Higgins last year is a big thing. And the fact that you still have Tyler Boyd there, you still got Joe Mixon, and the fact that Giovanni Bernard is gone now. I think that the year off that Jamar Chase took, good for him health-wise overall. But I think it's gonna take a bit to develop that chemistry with him again at a NFL level. And that's where for me, I think a more realistic finish for him is probably like a top 15, top 20 finish. 10 is a very hot take. But it's not out of the realm of possibilities. Joe Burrow could lock on to Jamar Chase just like he did when they were playing together at LSU, and he throws T. Higgins and Tyler. I think Tyler Boyd still gets his because he's that slot guy. But you could throw T. Higgins to the side and go Jamar Chase all day. So, but I like it though. That's bold, man.
Well, like I said, but if he throws the ball 50 times a game, figure those 3. Say Joe Burrow completes, say 35 passes a game. Obviously that's a high number, but split them up between say 4 guys. That's it's basically 8 catches a game per person. So you never know. And I agree. It is a little bit of a hot take, but a lot of things can happen, and nobody thought that Justin Jefferson was going to blow up the way that he did last year either. And and he's got Kirk Cousins throwing to him, and that's not even a pass heavy offense. That's a run heavy offense that Justin Jefferson was still able to show out. So I agree. LSU's got the receivers, their wide receiver U, and I think that's why. He can finish top 10. He can finish top 10. So he might be also. So if you're looking for somebody that's probably going to drop out of the first or second round, you probably be able to get him as a sneaky late third, early fourth round wide receiver that, is probably still going to put up numbers. But it's a little bit of a risk, but I think the reward.
So let me ask you this. So
very good.
You come around wherever you're drafting at in your league, and you've got Jamar Chase sitting there, and you've got guys like Terry McLaurin, Amari Cooper, Robert Woods, Allen Robinson, Keenan Allen, kind of all those that group of guys that are sitting there, and you would take Jamar Chase over guys who have proven. To me, that's where it comes into too. Is that like you're taking the risk on a guy like Jamar Chase, who we don't fully know what he's going to do in the NFL when we've got guys who are proven commodities. Well, we know what they've done. You know what I mean? So that's where it comes down. So
right. No, I got you. That to me, I've never been the one to shy away from a quick pull on a fantasy draft. So, I'm the one who's taking Baker in like the fifth or sixth round. So, I got very lucky. I got very, very lucky last year that I actually think I took Justin Jefferson in the 15th round. And so I get to keep him this year in the 15th round, which is pretty sweet. But, he may just drop. Who knows? So maybe you get him later than, but I agree. I don't know if I would want to pull the trigger, right? As early, if, somebody like Terry McLaurin or somebody is sitting there that I agree that is proven themselves that is going to put up numbers. Yeah. I still think that you take them there, but 100%. I think that if you took the risk on Jamar Chase, it'll pay off. So, moving on. Number 9, I've got DK. I believe I've had DK before. I've had the opposite, his partner in crime and Tyler Lockett. DK is just, the dude's a monster, and it really just, their offense and what they do all kind of depends on what happens between Pete Carroll and Russell Wilson. You look at 16 games, 83 receptions, 1,300 yards, and 10 touchdowns. And like I said, I'll say it probably 8 more times, but volume is what I look at. Targets in 2020, he was ranked 13th out of all the wide receivers in targets. He finished sixth in yards and 6th in touchdowns. So that's why I've got him up there. I think that the same thing happens. I thought that maybe Tyler Lockett would take some more away, but DK Metcalf is just a freak of nature in every facet of the game, and he's going to get his, and there's really not anything else.
That's the crazy thing though too. So in PPR, DK and Tyler Lockett respectively finished 7th and 8th last year. So it was the whole let Russ cook season. So it's just like we'll see if that continues. If they can run the ball at all, I think those numbers could decrease. My biggest thing with DK, and I think why I had him I probably had, I think at 11. I tossed back and forth with putting him in or not. Was the inconsistent games. It was the just slight inconsistencies on targets. And him actually getting the ball and doing things. So, but
right. No, I agree. Like I said, he was a lot like that. There were games where I agree that he would just disappear.
Oh yeah.
And Lockett was the same way. Lockett was one of those boomer bust guys, which is why I don't have Lockett in. He might have finished 8th in PPR last year, but like Lockett is such a boomer bust guy that's why I would lose games, because I'd be like, I have to start Tyler Lockett, because if I sit him on the bench, like he's probably going to go off, but then I'd start him, and like I had him and Russ, and all of a sudden
Tyler Lockett's one of my favorite best ball players, man. Like best ball drafts, I'm looking after DK or Tyler in those. Yeah. So.
Yeah. Right. But moving on. Number 8. There's your boy Allen Robinson. I've got him a little higher than you. And this is based solely on just the fact that their offense is just going to be better. Even with the Red Rocket, if that's what ends up happening, he ends up being the starting quarterback and all that. I think at some point you do probably see Justin Fields, but either way, Allen Robinson is finally going to have at least some sort of consistency there. I think a little bit. Their offense is going to be a little bit better, and I think he's going to get fed. Even last year, like you were talking about, even with terrible quarterbacks, last year he finished third in targets, eighth in yards, now he did finish 22nd in touchdowns, but that had a lot to do with the rest
Chicago
of the
was they
so like if they can't drive the ball down,
Chicago relied too heavily on the tight ends in the red zone and everything last year. So yeah, like I think that's something that they move away from, and Allen Robinson will. I think those numbers will kind of even out this year.
Right. Right. But yeah, I mean, if he can put up those same type of numbers, and when I say 22nd in touchdowns, that's also saying, I mean, he had 6 touchdowns. It's not like a bad number. It's just, kind of where he's stacked up against everybody else. So like, I mean, he's
I think the biggest thing,
a top 10 guy.
The big thing that helps out Allen Robinson too is Darnell Mooney taking that next step this year. He's one of my absolute favorite deep sleepers. Like I'm basically going after him in every league and everything that I'm doing.
Right.
Is I'm going after Darnell Mooney, and that's just going to help out Allen Robinson. So.
Right. Right. Number 7 here, that's where I actually have Devontae Adams, and I'm playing this off as Aaron Rodgers isn't going to be there. And I know that when we talked about it on your top 10, that I said that, Adams could, I think it's going to be one or the other. He could still have a really, really good year because Jordan Love uses him like as his his cuddly blanket is something that he's used to, or I wouldn't say used to because he hasn't really played yet, but somebody that he's able to throw the ball to his I don't see a check down, but just that comfortable receiver he's with, or the opposite happens and their offense sputters. They rely more on the run game, and Devontae Adams numbers go down, and that's more likely what I think will happen. So I still have him as a top 10 guy. Last year with Aaron Rodgers, 4th in targets, 4th in yards, number 1 in touchdowns.
It's insane. It's insane.
Dude, 18 friggin' touchdowns. Like that's just insane to me. And that those are like Madden type numbers.
Oh yeah.
And if that even remotely stays the same, yeah, he's a number 1 guy. Like if Aaron Rodgers comes back, he's the number 1 guy. I don't think that happens, but I still think that he stays right around that. Maybe anywhere between like 80 and 100 receptions, probably, over 1,100 yards. And, a lot like what I said, Jamar Chase is, double-digit touchdowns. So it all depends on, what ends up happening with their offense without Aaron Rodgers. So number 6, I have number. Cool.
Bold.
This is where, so like I said, I threw Michael Thomas in there. This is why this is jacked up. But I have Michael Thomas as my number 6. Like I said, kind of look past the 2020 stats there. That had a lot to do with he was injured and everything else. And we talked about it a little bit already, but it depends on what Jameis does. And I guess my only point to kind of you made a point about like how when he was in Tampa Bay. Like he had Mike Evans and he had Chris Godwin, and he actually, he had good. Yeah, he threw a lot of interceptions, but he threw a lot of yards. And Mike Evans had good years, and whatnot. But that was also a different, like, kind of run offense. I think that no matter if it's Taysom or Jameis, I think that they run the ball a lot more than Tampa Bay did in those years. Now, granted, Tampa Bay was playing from behind a lot, so they had to throw the ball a lot more. It forced Jameis to throw the ball a lot more.
Oh, it's still,
And this is just saying that, Jameis gets a starting job because it's not, it's not written in, it's written in sand at this point that he does, but it's definitely not set in stone. Taysom could end up taking it. I see that unlikely, but I think Michael Thomas still finishes. He's a top 10 guy. I just don't think that you're going to see near the numbers that he put up against or with Drew Brees. I think that they're going to have to bring somebody in there eventually to take the reins away from Jameis Winston or Taysom Hill, somebody a little bit more proven, or a very young guy, somebody that they can develop while Jameis is there, whatever it may be. But Michael Thomas, he's still going to get him. This dude's still a monster. I agree with you. He's one of the most uncoverable receivers out there, and a lot of his. it's a lot of his is yards after the catch. I didn't look what his yak was, but in the games that I had watched, just like the dude catches the ball and he's gone. Like, and even just like on these little slants and stuff, like, dude's catching a 3-4 yard slant, and all of a sudden he's down the field for 26 yards, and it's just fed. So, I agree. I think that he finishes top 10. I just don't have him quite as high. Maybe some other people do. Going into my number 5, this is where I've got DeAndre. I really debated having him as mine. I know it's kind of a difference between number 1 and number 5, but I actually contemplated having him as my number 1. My big thing with not putting him up there is, and I talked about already, is really the touchdowns. Yes, it's PPR. Yes, he catches a lot of balls. Yes, he catches a lot of yards, or gets a lot of yards. But it's the getting in the end zone. You're talking, look at what was it, Devontae Adams, 18 touchdowns. So dude's catching, a touchdown a game, whereas D-Hop is getting like a touchdown every few games. So like maybe he has those games where he has like 8 catches for 150 yards. Sure, that's 23 points. And those are great numbers, but I think that there are other receivers that can put up more gaudy numbers only because of their ability to be able to get into the end zone a little bit more. And and a lot of that can change. I also think having AJ Green there, depending on what happens with Fitz, there's so many different things that could happen that I don't think that necessarily his volume drops at all, because he's still one of the best receivers in the game. He makes some ridiculous plays and puts his team in position to win games. But I just don't have him quite as high, just because, and I will say it's not necessarily anything that D-Hop isn't doing or his team isn't doing. It's just what I think that the top 4 guys
My only thing to that with the touchdowns is I think the biggest thing with his low number of touchdowns, regressing from him playing with Deshaun Watson and everything in Houston, is that Kyler was actually running in quite a few touchdowns in the beginning of the season. And I think that's like where they would get on like goal line situations and stuff. It was Kyler running those in and not like dishing those out to D-Hop. So I think those numbers will boost up, but yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. We shall see. Going into that, so my top 4 here, these guys to me, and Justin Jefferson's the only one that I'm a little biased about, just because I would really enjoy him to be a number 4 receiver, just because I'm getting him so late this year. Because he actually finished 16th in targets, 3rd in yards, and 17th in touchdowns. So like his big thing here, he had a ton of yards, and he actually, 88 receptions is a great number, and 7th in 7 touchdowns. Like, these are great numbers. The kid was a rook. He's gonna have better chemistry with Kirk Cousins this year. I don't. 1,400 yards is a lot to repeat, but I still think that his numbers are just so gaudy. And with Adam, the big thing there is with Adam Thielen still there, as long as because he's had injuries and stuff like that. If he stays healthy throughout the year, and there's another option besides Justin Jefferson, that's where his numbers end up boosting up, because it's not like he's going to get double teamed every time and this and that. Because Adam Thielen is a great receiver. Like, the reason Adam Thielen was, has had good years was because Stephon Diggs was there. And as soon as Stephon Diggs leaves, you add in Justin Jefferson. So like, so you could actually, if you really wanted, you could actually make a case for Adam Thielen too. But I just think the kid's so fast. Like, he's a great route runner. He can beat you over the top. And he scores touchdowns. It's one more than what D-Hop did, but those numbers are, just as good as anybody in the NFL. So that's why I've got him up there. I think that it also depends on how fluid the Minnesota offense runs, because they are typically in a run heavy offense. This dude had almost 90 receptions and 1,400 yards. So Like, if they even think, oh man, we still have a great wide receiver in Justin Jefferson,
Yeah,
why
I
don't we
like
throw
it.
the ball a little bit more? Well, then that kind of leads into why I have him up in the top 5. So,
Calvin Ridley.
number 3, this is where I have your boy, Calvin Ridley, based solely on the fact that Julio's not there. The dude had 90 receptions and 1,300 yards, 9 touchdowns with Julio there. Like, what is going to happen when Julio's gone? Like, somebody has to catch the ball. And, like, going off of that, 7th in targets last year with Julio there. The dude finished 7th in targets with Julio Jones on the roster. Like, and that's in the entire NFL. So, like, you have to imagine that at least target-wise, volume-wise, it's going to be there. Like, he's probably going to finish 1 or 2, at least in targets. And you figure he's probably going to be one of those guys that's over 100 receptions, probably over 1,400 yards, and I think double-digit touchdowns. I think that he might even compete with Tyreek Hill this year as the number 1 wide receiver in fantasy football. Maybe. I mean, I think he's just it's just Matt Ryan has to throw the ball to somebody, and I think that guy is just going to be Calvin Ridley this year. And I kind of wish that I wouldn't have gotten rid of him, because I think I actually drafted him like 2 years ago or 3 years ago, whenever he came out, and I actually got rid of him because I was like,
he was my guy last year. It was 2 years ago. Everyone was talking about Chris Godwin.
Last year he
blown up, and he did, and he took off. Like an idiot, and it's that thing with wide receivers where in their 3rd year, they somehow, the good wide receivers click with their quarterbacks, and that's exactly what Calvin really did. And I mean, he just torched it this year. So yeah.
Right.
I did, yeah.
Going into my number 2, I think that you had him at number 2 as well. I love Diggs, man. Diggs finished first in targets,
Josh Allen
first
running
in
the
yards,
ball like
but
Josh Allen. I mean, Josh Allen is the quarterback and the running back of that team. So yeah, I mean, that.
Right. Exactly. Those numbers, I think, are going to be very similar to what they were last year. One of the big things I was reading up on is that Buffalo's goal was to pretty much just try to bring everybody back. John Brown is gone, but John Brown was also hurt a lot last year anyways, so missing John Brown and replacing him with Emmanuel Sanders, it's going to be a very, very similar team. And then you still have Cole Beasley, who is, I mean, when I loved excited Cole Beasley, but when John Brown wasn't playing, Cole Beasley was a beast because he was that second option. And then Diggs, it's kind of like that Adam Thielen, Justin Jefferson thing. Is you got Stephon Diggs and Cole Beasley. Like, you have that guy that's going to be able to take the looks away from, or the double teams away from Stephon Diggs. And Emmanuel Sanders is no slouch. Like, dude's still a good receiver. He's getting older, but he's still a good receiver, and he's going to be able to take
a guy who steps up big in that offense too is Gabriel Davis. I mean, when John Brown was out, when he was out, last season, Gabriel Davis was really stepping up and really taking on a big role. So that could help with Diggs' production as well.
Right.
The cheetah.
I agree. And then number 1, easy. I gave it a little bit of thought, but the dude is just disgusting. And the big thing there is you look at, yes, he had 87 receptions, 1,200 yards, which would actually put him like kind of in the middle of the pack or towards the back of the end of the top 10, like 9th in targets, 7th in yards, but it's the touchdowns. Like, because he beats you over the top so often and he's so fast, like, that's where his PPR numbers jump up, because he's getting those extra points. He's averaging a touchdown a game. So, you couple that with, say like, I don't know, like 6 receptions for, 87 yards and a touchdown. He's a 20 point plus guy. If you have him, keep him. If you are starting from scratch, he's a first-round guy, should be a first-round guy, will continue to be a first-round guy, especially as long as...
I'm actually kind of jealous of you, man. I would love to
that's my top 10, man.
Watch a Chiefs game live. And I think we lose it sometimes on how unreal some of these guys are unless you're watching it like in person. And I'd love to like see just in person on how unreal Tyreek Hill's speed is. Like, 'cause, I mean, it's just, it's stupid. I mean, he was racing Ocho, or was it Chad Johnson? Or no, it was T.O. It was T.O. He was out there. T.O.'s like 43, 47 years old. And this thing I saw the other day, which I was actually going to bring up during the news, T.O. showed up to Deion Sanders' DB camp, right? And he was humbling these DBs at 47 years old. Like, and Tyreek Hill has still said he's like Terrell Owens is faster than the majority of the wide receivers in the NFL still. Like that blows my mind. Like,
well, yeah, I mean, even the race that they did against each other was like T.O. held his own. It wasn't like, Tyreek Hill blew him out of the water. Like, T.O. held his own there for a minute. Obviously, the cheetah ran, but he's I don't know why
that locker room presence, man.
Why they just don't, maybe they just don't want the attention, whatever it may be, but I don't know. But yeah, so that's our top 10. Hope you guys enjoyed it today.
And then
next week's going to be, are we on to running backs? Yeah. So, or not, well, actually, it will technically should be next week, just because we're a few days behind on this one. Hopefully we'll have Billy back. We've just been having some technical issues and scheduling issues and everything else. Hopefully we'll get all three. If not, at least we have some time to try to pick
if
up
there's anything they'd like to see, any episode ideas or anything like that they want to shoot out, we're open to suggestions. Obviously, we're just starting up. So we're kind of just doing our little off-season rankings. I think we're going to get into doing some mock drafts, episodes and everything. But get out there. No, go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah, actually, go ahead. Sorry. I actually did, and I think we'll probably end up making an episode somewhere in there. One of my buddies I've known for a long time said that he thought it would be cool if we were trying to do some sort of kind of almost like an all-star team for each division. So basically your best quarterback, your best running backs, your wide receivers, tight ends, O-line, defense, special teams, all of it. Not just your position players, but the entire things, and try to figure out where the bulk of the teams would come from, or the players would come from. But I thought that was a pretty cool idea. So maybe we'll look into doing that as well. But that's what I'm saying. A little suggestion like that can literally give us an entire episode. So we appreciate you guys listening today. I know that I've been kind of messing with everything here. I don't know if YouTube or Facebook went up live, just because we are. I had a new download and all that, and I think all my stream keys and all that messed up. So hopefully I get these posted for you guys, and keep listening to us on Spotify. Check us out on Twitter,
on YouTube.
Check us out on Instagram as well, and Facebook. And we will see you guys. We will see you guys when we
see
you. And So, with that being said, Alan, have a great 4th of July weekend. I hope everybody does. Enjoy it. Stay safe. Be good. And we out. Catch y'all later.